Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining our webinar today about using Quizlet to easily integrate students with learning disabilities. Today we'll be featuring a presentation by two language and special education teachers. We'll discuss their experience using Quizlet and share different games and fun activities they use with their students. It's just after 10, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Just one second. So really quickly, let's introduce ourselves. My name is Amalia Nelson. I'm a marketing manager here at Quizlet, and I work around supporting our teacher community with different initiatives, including our Teacher Ambassador program. And one of our teacher presenters today is actually one of our teacher ambassadors, so very excited to work with her on this. And then this slide actually says that Olivia Watkins is on this call, but we actually have a sub today. Laura Oppenheimer, our Director of Marketing, is here with us, and she'll be helping to answer your questions at the end of the Q&A. And then for our teacher presenters, we have Tanya and Maya. Both Tanya and Maya work at LinguaCom. Tanya is a language specialist and manager of LinguaCom, which provides language training and academic assistance. She also teaches and lectures at several universities. And Maya is also a teacher, and they both have been using Quizlet since 2015 after a student introduced them to it. So far, they've used Quizlet to help students as young as age 7 and as old as 90, and especially appreciate how it's helped their students with learning disabilities. So quickly, an agenda. So we're going to get started with a quick intro to Quizlet, a demo tour of what our website actually looks like for teachers. For those of you who are new. And then I'll just go ahead and hand it over to Tanya and Maya. After the presentation, we'll quickly review how to get started and finish with a round of Q&A with Tanya, Maya, Laura, and myself. So quickly, let me just go to my account. Okay, so for those of you who are new to Quizlet, this is kind of the logged in main page. So if I log into my teacher account, which you can see my name right up here, this is called our latest activity page, and it shows me all of the sets that I've recently studied or created or that have been added to my classes. And some just important areas to highlight. With this left side bar, you get access to your classes and your folders, which are great ways to organize your material on Quizlet. You can also see our blog, which often has great resources from other teachers on how to use Quizlet effectively or in creative ways. There's also a quick link to our help center here. And then just scrolling back up quickly, in the top header bar you will see two main options to either search for existing material in Quizlet, and we have over 150 million sets, and by sets I mean kind of digital flashcard decks, the terms and definitions that you're either teaching or you're studying on Quizlet. So we have a lot of those that you can search for and use right away without, spending time to create your own. But if you do want to create your own, that's the second option right here. It's the Create button. And with this tool, you can actually upload your own material to Quizlet for your students to learn, or if you're a student, for you to study. So let's just quickly go into an actual set. So this is a set on French animals. I'm going to go ahead and click into it. And this brings me to my main set page. And the set page is where your terms and definitions live, as well as your access to all the different activities that you can either use with your students or your students can use individually to study on their own. So I just want to highlight quickly a couple of activities that Tanya and Maya find especially useful. So let's go into flashcards. So flashcards is a great way to just get to know the material for the first time, and there's a bunch of different options. For example, if I wanted to actually see both sides at once, I can do that and go through my cards really easily. Another great aspect of Quizlet is that we provide 18 different languages of audio. So for example, I can actually listen to the audio as I'm studying, which is really helpful for all different types of learners, language learning, auditory learners, that sort of thing. So that's flashcards. If we just go back to the main set page quickly, the other mode that I wanted to highlight was spell, and this is one that Tanya and Maya have told me have been really helpful to their students, which is great. You kind of hear the audio and it prompts you to type what you hear. Do I know this? I think so. I didn't take French, but let's try it. Oh, there we go. So spell is really great because it corrects me on my spelling and tells me what I've done wrong. So we're learning French. Great, and then it will ask me to type it in again. So this is kind of a second way to study, again, using the audio prompts that Quizlet offers, as well as you can see visual prompts. You have the option to add images to your set as you create it, which is really, really helpful for visual learners. So the last thing that I want to highlight is actually a feature that we created just for teachers called Class Progress. And if I go into this set, I believe, this is a really great feature because it gives you, as a teacher, a little bit more insight into your students' activity on Quizlet, as well as their progress as a group. So as you can see, this page has kind of changed a little bit, and I'm seeing now a view of all of my students and their study progress. So here I see a section that says sometimes missed with percentages of how many students are missing these. Same with rarely missed, all the way to never missed. So this is a really good way to, at a glance, get a sense of which terms or concepts are proving more difficult for your students and kind of refocus your classroom time around that. The second aspect of class progress, click into this, is a more detailed and individual view of how your students are studying. So here I can see in the past 2 weeks, these 3 students have been studying this set, Food and French, and I can see how they've been studying it. So the students started flashcards, they completed test, which is a different study mode, and they got a high score of 100%, which is awesome. They played match, which is a fun time game, etc. You can see all this information here. And as you can see at the top, you can filter this. So if I, gave my students an assignment to study last night, maybe I'd want to say past day. And this will update the screen to show you study activity within that time frame. Okay, so that's all that we're going to focus on for this intro demo tour. But if you have questions about any of this, make sure to add them to your questions section of your webinar tools. You'll see that on the screen, and you'll be able to enter any questions that you have for either Tanya and Maya or Laura and me, and we'll get to those at the end of the presentation. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and switch the presentation over to our teacher presenters. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can. The question is, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Well, great. Great. So hello, everyone. I'm Tanya.
Hi, I'm Maya.
I think we're very excited to be able to have this opportunity to speak to you all. We just wanted to say hello with the video. In a second, we're going to switch the video off and proceed with the presentation. We just wanted to say hello. Here is, we teach here, this is our class. We teach in several other places. And today we're going to talk to you about how we use Quizlet and how we integrate it with the games that we create ourselves. So let us start. Okay, now we're going to switch the video off. Okay, and start the presentation. Okay, so before we proceed, well, of course, learning English as a foreign language is not all about words, but words are important, and they're especially important for those students who struggle with reading comprehension. Students always want to improve their speaking and listening skills. So yes, it is important to learn words. As this nice cartoon says, if you can figure out the words in a text message, you can figure out the words in Chaucer, hopefully. Okay, before we actually tell you about what we do, we'd like to learn more about you, the listeners. So please answer short questions that we have prepared. The first question is, do you teach students with learning disabilities? Yes or no? To vote, you can press on the answer. You will see a pop-up on your screen. Yes, I can see that the poll is open. After it's over, Amalia will tell us what are the results.
Great. Yeah, so it's looking like about 88% yes. Oh, the number's changing. 76% yes, 24% no.
Okay. Thank you very much for your participation. And it looks like most of the teachers who are present today, they are familiar with what learning disabilities are. Thank you. Next question: how big are the classes you teach? Please pick the answer.
Okay. So people are answering. It's looking like about 37% have 20 to 30 students. Now that's 35%. About 35% have 10 to 20 students. About 19% have 30 or more students. And 10% have 1 to 5 students. And actually 0% for 6 through 10.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Again, thank you for your answers, and thanks, Amalia. So I think it looks like most of us know what it feels like to teach a big class. So let's define our goals. Today, we would like to discuss the main difficulties a student with LDs, learning disabilities, encounters in a class. Would like to discuss the challenges of dealing with an inclusive classroom and with a heterogeneous classroom. We also would like to present several Quizlet-based activities that help us deal with the problems that we've just mentioned. Also, we would like to tell you a little bit about our students and how they succeed with the games and the Quizlet-based games. Okay, so I know that most of you already have been introduced to learning disabilities, but I'm going to make a very quick overview of what it is like to have learning disabilities. So learning disabilities usually described as problems with perception, visual, audio, tactile, memory problems, including working memory, short-term and long-term memory, organizational problems, or in other words, problems with organizing your time and material. Another aspect of this is inability to keep deadlines, submit essays on time, and things like that. Attention deficit, well, that's a huge problem, at least in our case. Lots of kids have it. People who suffer from attention deficit are unable to focus on a task, shift attention. Sometimes they can focus, but only what they want to study or what they want to do. They can't shift the attention to something that the teacher wants them to do. So that's a very general and very quick overview of learning disabilities. Now, today we all are trying and making big efforts to make our classrooms inclusive. We're trying to learn how to deal with students who have learning disabilities in a classroom, with other kids or students. But for me, and I believe for both of us, we believe that learning, like teaching and learning, it's an individual process. It's a relationship between teachers and students, and it looks like it doesn't matter whether there are students with learning disabilities in a classroom or aren't. Each classroom is diverse in a way. The students are different, like they're different people. So what we really try to focus on, what we call it multi-level teaching. We have a class, be it a small class or a big class, we try to approach each and every student and try to motivate each and every student in a way that most suits this student. But wanting to be a multi-level teacher, like being able to teach on different levels, it poses challenges. One of them being availability of resources. It takes time to prepare lessons that are multi-leveled. So, you know, a part of teaching is a hard work, and we all know that. So we, especially when you work in a big class and you have to deal with 3 or 4 different groups that work in different pace. So this is one of the challenges we face each and every day. We need resources, we need material. Okay, we need to shift our attention from one group to another. Another aspect, another challenge, that we have to be aware. We have to be trained enough to deal with this. We have to know that this student needs a specific way, a specific type of material, and another student needs another type of material. And this awareness, it comes with time, and it's definitely a challenge. The size of the class, well, I've already mentioned that the bigger the class, the more types of, more characters you encounter. So I guess I've mentioned all. Yes. So to make it clear of how we deal with all that, I decided to put it in a table. I'm a person who likes tables. So I decided to put problems on one side and show Quizlet and our game solutions on the other side. I would like to tell you a few words about this. So when it comes to perception problems, visual, audio, and tactile, Quizlet is great because of the 3-dimension flashcards that it has. Well, Amalia has already introduced the flashcards. What we call them 3D flashcards because they actually support all perception channels. There's a visual channel because each word can be accompanied by a picture. It supports the audio channel because you can, there is a recorded audio for each word. If you don't like the robot, you can actually record the audio yourself. You can even record your own explanations, and students can hear your voice when they flip the card. And it, well, the way we do it in our games, it also supports the tactile channel because we use Quizlet to make printouts, so students can touch touch those cards. We make board games and motion games to also to encourage those students whose tactile channel is the strongest one. Okay, next, memory problems. Working memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. Again, because Quizlet has several study modes, it allows variations in how students with different learning styles study. So, for example, it has a variety of stimuli to engage several perception channels, just as I've mentioned already, and it's got the learn and spell modes that improve long-term memory, because once you spell the same word over and over many times, you will definitely remember much better how the word is spelled. Learn mode, it's there's also the mode where you can hear the word and try to spell it from the audio, which involves 2 channels, the audio channel and visual channel. And to add to it, we have created several games that support long-term, like learning for improving long-term memory even more. We have our step-by-step game and Monopoly game that encourage students to use words in a context, in a text-related context. We're going to tell more about it just in a few minutes. if you stay with us. Context is important for those students who need the associations and who have like strong visual images and strong imagination. So those games help them very much. Next, organizational problems. How do we face them using those games and Quizlet? So if a student is unable to organize his or her material, Quizlet now allows us to split the material into sets, which is really good because it looks like sometimes it looks like when you read a text and there are like 50 words that you don't know, it looks endless. But when you split it into sets, it's much more defined. You have the tasks, and you work and you try to succeed in those tasks, and it really helps the student to make progress. Another thing is if they have a problem with deadlines and working on schedule, and they need to learn a big amount of words. Today, Quizlet has the Learn mode, which reminds them to learn a certain set or certain words every day. It sends you a reminder, and it's really great for those who have organizational problems. Attention. Again, those students who have attention deficit, they usually experience difficulty with focusing on a certain task or focusing on something that they don't really want to learn. So by making it interactive and competitive sometimes, we make it more attractive and we boost the motivation, and therefore we sort of make them focus on the game, although they thought they didn't want to, but they start they get into the game and they learn the words much more willingly. Okay, so now over to our games and how we integrate Quizlet. And the first game that we created this year is the Monopoly game. Now over to Maya. She's going to tell us everything about it.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so basically, one of our students, he's a bit technologically challenged. So he doesn't like phones, and he doesn't like working on computers or phones, and he doesn't own a smartphone. So we came up with an idea combining his hobbies, Monopoly, and we used the same words and sentences that we put in the Quizlet, but we printed it out, and we used the tactile strengths. Mm-hmm. Basically, we had three options. When you step on a street, it's a vocabulary work, and you need to translate the word. Okay, only one word. If you stop on a utility place, it's a translation of a sentence from the story itself. We're working on a story, imaginary story, and to work on the translation and the vocabulary.
I just wanted to add shortly that the background for the game is a story that we pick. We pick a tale, a fairy tale, or any text, and we take the vocabulary from that text. So it's all text related. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And the fun part, when you step on the chance, it's a surprise chance. Sorry.
Here's chance, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a surprise card with different activities like counting until 10 or 20, or jumping, exercising, push-ups, things like that. It just makes the student have much more fun and participate, not only to sit down and play, but to run around the class and take out all the energy he probably has. Yeah. He or she has. So that was a very nice idea, and to add to that, we decided to add points to make the game even more interesting and to make a bit challenging, because then we decided to make it as a competition. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So here are the materials. Do you want to...
So we have the printed game board, like you saw on the previous slide. We have the game pieces that we printed from the Quizlet, a dice, mm-hmm. and cards. Same. The chance cards we invented ourselves. They're not from Quizlet, but You can do several variations as you wish.
Mhm.
If you don't want to print out the cards, you can use a computer screen with relevant Quizlet set to help you and use it as instead of cards. So basically, the description is exactly like I said. The players pick their game pieces. The dice are used to define steps.
So all the rest we have already explained. Again, if you have any questions in a Q&A session, we'll be happy to give you more details about each and every game.
Exactly. And to help the students even more, we decided to, if they use any help from us for a translation or to remember a word that they don't remember, that they can't remember, it's the deduction of points. So they need to think very carefully if they want to ask us for help or not. So it makes them think and try for themselves and find a solution for their own problems.
Yeah. Just a little point to add to it. This game may be alterated to suit almost any story, or if you have adults, and adults love games, so you can even take a serious article and make this game based on an article you're using. Okay, over to the next game. The next game, we call it step-based board game. It's very easy. Basically, it consists of two things. It consists of a game board, which we printed also we just downloaded a picture and printed, game pieces, and the second thing is a computer screen with a Quizlet set. So how we play it? We roll a dice, open a card from the set, and then the student has to, or each participant has to translate the card. And if you want to make it more difficult, more challenging, you can ask your students to create a sentence with the word, with this particular word. If the students, or if you participate, if you write, you can move to the according to the dice. If you're wrong, you have to stay on this in the same place, in the same position. Okay, just a second. I'm going back to the picture. So it's very simple, and it can match anything, like any text, any academic material. Just make a set, and you can challenge your students if you want. Even challenge them even more than just making sentences. You can make them tell a story with this word used. Okay, next game is our bingo game. And over to Maya again.
Hi, everyone, again. Okay, so this game we actually came up after some time studying with a specific student. The game is like this. The basic of the game is a regular bingo game, but it's based on a set of a story or whatever you like. So how's it going? You make a table on the board with 9 definitions of the words that you have in the specific set. Then the teacher chooses a word and writes underlined gaps according to the number of the letters in the word. For example, I have the word poor, it's 4 letters. But when I wrote this, for example, the student came up with the word bean. There's another word in the bingo set. So don't worry if the student doesn't answer the correct word that you wanted. It's still correct because it's still on the board. So if the student finds the correct word and spells it correctly, he can tick the word off the bingo set. Mm-hmm. And the same bingo rules apply here as well. For example, if he crossed 3, so he's a winner, and so on.
Wow. I love it. It's really fun to play this game. Now, the next game we even have recorded a little video to show you how we do it. We call it Run and Match. Well, just as Amalia mentioned when she made her presentation, there is one of the modes in Quizlet is matching. You can show it on your screen, words and their definitions. So what we do with it, we actually for those students who like movement, who like to stand up, you know, sit down, hyperactive, what we do is, instead of giving them, you know, sit in front of the screen and do it themselves, we project the game on the screen if we have a projector. If we don't, we just use a computer, a laptop screen. We put it in, like, say, a couple of meters distance from the student for where the students sit. We ask them to take turns. Oh, I forgot to say it can be played in couples or in small groups. You'll see in a second how I do it. They have to take turns in matching words and definitions. So each person has to stand up, run to the board, and show with a finger which word matches which definition. And if they're right, so the teacher clicks on those two words and the words disappear. So if it's groups, so each group sends a representative to the board who has to touch the word and its definition and quickly run back and sit down. The team with the shortest time wins, but if you don't want them to compete and you want them, instead you want them to collaborate with each other, you can play differently. You can say, okay, now you have to finish the set in the shortest possible time. So groups or couples, they have to collaborate in answering correctly as soon as possible. Now we're going to show you this short video. In this video, we have two of our students trying to help each other, answering, matching the words and definitions. You see how they try to support each other. It's really lovely. They're really excited. You see how excited they are. And let me just mention, for those specific girls, running is great. They have this energy, and it just changes the lesson to them. They just need this outburst of energy at a certain point. Okay, so now we're going to tell you a couple of stories from our experience about how we use the games.
Yes. Okay, so we had two brothers that came to us. They're very gifted. They're very smart. But the problem was that they were in a very different level. It was very hard for us to find a specific one regular way to teach them and for them actually to understand.
Yes. Also, one of them had an nonverbal learning disability. He had difficulty understanding the limits. He sort of didn't understand hints, and that's why it made things even more complicated.
They had very different perceptions of patterns. They had logical, verbal, organized, fixed, associate, fixed. Mm-hmm. Basically, they were very, very different. In the beginning, we started teaching them together, and then we saw it's just a waste of time because one is studying, the other one is not. So we tried to figure out the best way to work with them. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of split time when one plays and the other does a worksheet or works on something else. And we had some games to show that they played together. They show them that they're actually working together, and it's a joint class. Mm-hmm. At the end, after a long, few months, mm-hmm. they made a huge progress, both of them, from a point that they didn't know anything to a point when one of them can read elementary level text fluently, and he's able to learn vocabulary very, very fast. He just absorbed all of the activities and used them for his benefit. Mm-hmm. And it made the lessons very fun because he came with a lot of passion, and he wanted to study.
Yeah.
From the beginning, when he didn't want to, we got to the point when he actually came to lesson with a lot of happiness and wanting to study.
Yeah, a lot of motivation. So yeah, those two guys, they were really challenging, especially because just as Maya said, one was really logical type, and the other one disorganized, dissociative. So but the games helped us to break the ice and teach them together. Okay, another story that I wanted to add was a story of my student who I'll call B. Okay. He is a struggling reader. He knows the letters, but it's very difficult for him to read. He's autistic. He's got concentration difficulties. Once he doesn't want to do it, he has outbursts and he shouts, and he starts repeating the same sentence over and over again. So maybe as a result of the condition, but also maybe the special family situation, he's got a very low self-esteem. So what my teaching strategy was to engage his visual and audio channel to improve his memory, and to give him a lot of to allow him experience success as much as possible. So games are perfect for that. And we started playing a step-by-step game. We started playing gravity and match games. He loves it. He likes listening. He likes listening to how the words sound. He insists on picking images for each and every Quizlet set because it improves his memory fantastically. So now, today, again, from a complete non-reader, he reads elementary stories. He even chats a little. So, and I must say that if the lessons looked like I would say they were beyond normal in the beginning. Today, if you look at the way he studies, he doesn't even seem to be a child with any. It's weird, but he doesn't seem to have any difficulties at all. But of course, sometimes he does, but most of the time he's fine. So we're happy that we have we have presented everything. What time is it? Do we still have time? Yeah. Oh, good. Okay. So thank you very much for your participation, for listening. And now I guess it's time for Q&A, for questions.
Yeah, great job. Thanks so much, Tanya and Maya. I really appreciated all those amazing ideas, and it's just so incredible to see the classroom types of activities that our teachers have been coming up with. Because the history of Quizlet is that it was a tool that a student built for students, but it's been so amazing to see how teachers have been adapting it for all different types of learners, for all different types of contexts. So thank you, that was great. So I'm just going to quickly change over to my screen and go over just easy steps to get started. If you don't already have a Quizlet account, go ahead and sign up for one. It's totally free. Go to Quizlet.com and sign up. You can even sign up with Google authentication or Facebook, so you don't have to remember a separate password. And then once you're logged in, go ahead and search for existing sets on any topic. Again, we have millions of sets that have already been created by students and teachers, so there should be something there that you can use right away. Or if you already have, for example, existing word lists, it's super easy to create your own content. And that's once you've created a set, you can share these sets with students in a variety of different ways. They don't necessarily need their own accounts, but if you do have your students sign up for their own free Quizlet accounts, they can actually create their own content and track their own progress. So that's just a note. And they can go ahead and use all the different study activities that Tanya and Maya and I have highlighted. as well as more in-class games, some creative ideas from our teacher presenters today, as well as Quizlet Live, which is a game mode that's available on any set with over 12 turns that is actually about collaboration and team competition. And then finally, it's important to, if your students do have their own smartphones or devices, download our free mobile apps. It just makes it so that they can study anywhere, they work offline, so really convenient for time outside of the classroom or outside of the home. So yeah, now I think it's time for Q&A. If we have any questions. Any questions, guys?
Yeah, I see a first question that says, I see it says mobile apps. I know the normal Quizlet app, but what other apps are there? It's a good question. So I think when we say mobile apps, we mean our iOS app and our Android app. So
that's right.
We offer an app for each of the sort of biggest mobile platforms, and we also support tablets. So if you have iPads in your classroom, or Android tablets in your classroom, you can certainly use our mobile apps in there as well. But those are the only apps we have. They offer 4 different study modes on them each.
Is that something that your students use a lot of?
Our students use it a lot, and it's very comfortable because they can be on the bus to school or playing with, waiting for to buy something or with friends, and they can do a study in the meanwhile. So it's really comfortable because they have it in their hands. And I wanted to add that I personally started using Quizlet Live, which is a very awesome way to play in a very big class, in a very big classroom. So it's a really good activity.
We also use it a lot with my university students. I'm referring to the staff. We all love it, and we have really big groups, so it helps us a lot.
Awesome. All right, I see another question. How can I search sets on different topics? Till now, I made my own on Quizlet. Amalia, do you want to give a quick demo of what
sure.
this looks like?
So let's go ahead and go back to my test account. So as I explained before, in this header area, you see the option to create your own set or actually search sets that already exist on Quizlet. So what should we search? Let's search Spanish phrases. Okay, so you can really type in anything. You can search by keyword, by subject, by even, book title, whatever it is you're trying to find. And you'll see here that we have a bunch of different results for, a pretty general term search. I would actually recommend being as specific as possible in your term search. But here you can see these are results for study sets, which are individual sets created by, the users that use Quizlet. You can also see results for classes, which are kind of organizations or groups of sets, as well as users. So this is sometimes useful if you're looking for a specific user, like your teacher or a student. You can actually type in, if you know their username, into here to find them. There's also some great options here, so I'm just going to tap into that. I would recommend using most relevant. This is kind of the best match. But if there was something more recent or you wanted to see recent results for any reason, you can do that. There's also a couple of filters, so image sets only, so this is great if you want to find a set with images, whereas, you could always find a set without images, make a copy of it, and then add your own images. But the second option is teacher-created sets only. So this is just kind of one way to up the quality of the sets that you see in results. Though I do have to say that this feature is part of our Quizlet teacher upgrade, which is $34.99 for 1 year. But yeah, this is just one of the helpful features that make it easier for you to find great content on Quizlet. So for example, if I update the results, I'll now see that every set that shows up in this list has a username with the word teacher next to it. So that's the way that I know that these sets were created by other teachers.
I see a question that says, any new games coming for Quizlet? I love all the games and hope there will be more. So we don't have any public plans right now to release more games, either in-classroom games or more study modes that are games. But I will say, one, that doesn't mean we won't ever do it. We just don't have any sort of plans over the next few months. The second thing I would say is on our blog, we actually highlight all types of different applications of Quizlet that people are using in their classroom and ways that they're customizing the existing games we do have. And we heard some of those today, but we've also heard about things like silent Quizlet Live or Quizlet Live Bingo or Quizlet Bingo, etc. So that's a great place to look for more. Here's an example of Quizlet Live in pairs, and so it's a great place to look for more ideas on ways to do different types of games using Quizlet in your classroom.
Yep, and I'm just highlighting here, this is our blog. If you filter to teacher content only, you'll see all these great ideas from teachers that are using Quizlet, adapting it for different fun kind of classroom collaborative use, like Tanya and Maya.
All right, we see a question that says, does the search engine work the same for free version as it works for the paid version of Quizlet? With the exception of that option to only see teacher-created sets, search works exactly the same for both free and paid teachers. So, you can put whatever topics you're looking for study materials on, and we'll give you the results regardless of whether you have a paying account.
Maybe it's worth saying what you get in the paid account. Is that a good time to do this?
Sure.
Because there are some differences, not in search, but in set creation, for example. And we've been talking a lot about adding images and recording audio. So it's probably worth emphasizing the fact that with a free account, you can add images from our free gallery, which is comprised of images that have been contributed by other users that are popular for certain terms. But for example, if there's specific images that you want to add and upload, that's something that actually comes with the upgraded version of a Quizlet account. And then the same, I know Tanya and Maya have talked about recording audio, and maybe you two could talk a little bit more about this, but Quizlet supplies actually 18 different text-to-speech audio, which means we'll supply the audio for 18 different languages. But let's say your language isn't included in that, or if you want to actually record audio hints for your students or example sentences, this is a really great feature that allows you to do this. And we've even heard, just from teachers that just hearing, having students hear their teacher's voice really makes a difference from, kind of a robot voice like Tanya said before. And then there's a few other features on here like class progress, which we kind of demoed in the first bit of the presentation. I don't know, Tanya or Maya, do you want to add anything to kind of the value of what this type of account gives you?
Yeah. Basically, we really like that the voice recording that we can, it depends on the student, of course. We can record the word, but by syllables. So if a student is very, for example, if English is not his first language, and it's hard for him to understand how to pronounce each and every syllable of the word, we can record it, and he can listen to it over and over and over again. It really help him in pronunciation and learning the word. That's it, basically.
That's why we like the recording. Also, it supports Hebrew, and I think it's the robot doesn't read Hebrew.
Yes, that's right. Great. Well, I was just going to go ahead and highlight a few other things. We talked about the blog where you can find other great tips from teachers. The Help Center right over here is really great if you're just looking on about kind of specific features that Quizlet offers and want to learn how to do something. We even have kind of a section for teachers, which includes more resources and professional development materials. Let's say you've watched this presentation, you're excited about telling others about how they can use Quizlet. There's some great resources here, and I've actually included them in the handout section of the webinar tools. So those are there to download, but you can also find them here. And that includes kind of getting started handouts for teachers, for your students. That's something that you can hand out to them if you're, implementing Quizlet in your classroom tomorrow. Something to send home for parents. And then if you are watching this presentation today and hoping to receive some sort of PD credit, there's also a certificate of completion that you can download and complete. So yeah, besides that, I think we're all set, unless you two have any kind of closing comments.
Well, we just want to encourage everyone to enjoy the process. We sometimes it happens sometimes we play games a lot, and I think the fact that it's fun for us is also fun for our students, and we believe it's possible to teach like that.
Yes, it's a very fun way to learn and to teach, And I just want to say that to the teachers, be creative. You can use Quizlet with a lot of stuff and a lot of games. Just be creative. Use the other games with Quizlet, and it gives you a lot of possibilities, and there's no end for possibilities basically.
Yeah, it's also it's also easy. So yeah, on this happy note.
Really easy to get started and use it kind of as much as you want to, either as a supplement to the lessons that you're teaching already and just asking your students to study with it, all the way to actually using it for games in the classroom. So actually I see one more question, which is what will the next webinar be on? And I've actually brought us to this Help Center page that talks about our webinars and actually links you to different recordings of our past webinars. So if you enjoyed this today, make sure to check out our other webinars on different kind of advanced topics. And I believe our next webinar will be with a teacher on using Quizlet to help English language learners. And that will probably be happening in the next couple of weeks. But we'll go ahead and post that here on this page, as well as make an announcement on our blog, on our Twitter, on our Facebook page, that sort of thing. So make sure to follow those channels if you're interested in watching more webinars. All right, I think that's all that we have time for. Thank you so much again, Tanya and Maya. Really appreciate your help on this. Great ideas. I hope that all of you attendees, go and use them and let us know how it goes. All right, thanks so much, guys. Bye.
Thank you.